higher income with less work. And some of you might be surprised, some of you might not, about the overarching and hugely important strategies to really achieving this level of higher income and less work. We'll discuss how to fluidly up-level your career, business, and life by doing the one thing others won't. It stands to reason that if you want things others don't have, you've got to do a few things that others won't do. Those other things need not always be work more or become incredibly skilled. In fact, in all of my experience in my own life and in coaching other entrepreneurs, the things that you must do are quite different. And I'm going to share some of those things a lot, in fact, with you. So in today's agenda, we will learn the root reasons you're not making as much money as you want to be in your business, things like confusion, inconsistency, stress, overwhelm, guilt, etc. And the one reframe that can launch you ahead of others and ahead of your current self. And we will come up with your tailored plan so that you can start earning more while working less. Obviously, everybody in here, their business, where they're at in their journey is going to be a little bit different. There is no one magic pill that I'm going to give all of you to take. I don't remember if that's the red pill or the blue pill, but I will give you the prompts and the tools along with the frameworks and the thinking methodologies so that you're able to apply what we talk about today. And it's going to be very tactical, it's action oriented, and it's hands-on so that you leave with the plan knowing, okay, I'm going to take step 1, step 2, step 3, and I'm going to start earning a higher level of income with less work. So I promised I would introduce myself so that you know who you're learning from. Hi, my name is Laura Catella-Georgi. I'm a teacher, marketer, copywriter, entrepreneur, student, wife, mom, and friend. A lot of things, a lot of titles. Isn't it funny? One of the tensions I find a lot of us have is everything that I am. Can I only be one thing at one time? If I'm a copywriter, am I just a copywriter? Can't I be more than a copywriter? Can't I be a copywriter who loves to knit and is a super happy mom and all of that? To which I say, yes. The more we try to break apart and fractalize your identity, the more complicated it gets, and it takes a hit to your self-esteem too, which we will touch on more in a little bit. So I say, the more that you can be the full, unique, multi-passionate, multi-pursuit version of yourself, perfect. Go ahead and be that. First webinar, guys. First webinar. I appreciate your patience with me. So some of the things I've done so that you feel that I'm credentialized enough to teach on the topics I'm going to be teaching on include being an award-winning multi-million-dollar copywriter. I've independently scaled my beauty company to 7 figures in its first year. At Edom Beauty, we specialize in all-natural, organic, vegan, cruelty-free skincare that helps with acne, dark spots, and hyperpigmentation. And one of our secret sauces is blending this classical direct response style of copy with commerce, branded, elegant, feeling positioning in the marketplace. That's one of the things that really sets us apart from a marketing point of view. I teach and mentor entrepreneurs and freelancers, sometimes getting them to the 5 figures per month take home goal that is so common and it makes sense why, so desirable, right? Sometimes just from one strategic conversation. And of course, I hope we accomplish a lot of that here. I have an Ivy League degree. I know a lot of people poo-poo college, but I really enjoyed my experience there, so I talk about it. And I have my master's in fine arts from Brooklyn College, which is one of the most elite and incredible creative writing programs in the world, actually. You can see that guy right over there. This is an example of blending all of the things about myself together. Turns out this is how we are, right? And more often than not, I will be anyone at this presentation in No Limit Texas Hold'em. Introductions of yourself don't really change too much, I don't think. And then I invited folks over to my house and we played a game of Hold'em and I won. So that was so great to live up to what I said on stage. But all of that being said, I have challenging self-worth issues, which I don't have much time to go into, you know, the therapy and the complexity and your upbringing and all the stuff that contributes to that. But it is just to let you guys know that I have my own shit too. We're not alone in our shit and the shit that we deal with and the shit that we carry with us through our lives. Just as a few small examples of that, my dad, who I love, this is not to blame or villainize my parents or anyone in my life at all. He taught me to do things by challenging me. That was his style. Oh, Laura definitely can't do that. And then I would have to prove him wrong. So if any of you feel that I've got to prove something, you know, thought process. If that's something that courses through you, I completely understand and relate to that. My mom has a personality disorder. There's a history of different forms of abuse, and part of my ongoing work is learning how to treat her with empathy so that I don't continue to feel dirtied by having her DNA. It's a little bit heavy, but the reason why the heavy work is so important is so that I can become freed to achieve the levels in my life and in my career that I want, and to, in many ways, earn higher income with less work. If I feel like shit, it turns out it's going to be hard to earn a higher level of income with less work. I'm going to prove that many times throughout our call today. I'm going to run through this fairly quickly, but this is, again, to just prove and bring home that I have my own shit too, and we are all united in having whatever forms of shit that we have in our lives. If somebody doesn't challenge and criticize you, they don't love you. If they're kind, they're actually soft and weak. If I am wrong, or if I admit flaws and shortcomings, then I am weak. I'm unvaluable. I'm only valuable if I'm strong. You cannot succeed without ruthlessly beating yourself up. So if I have the very best day ever, if I have hit some sort of goal, then I'm immediately like, ooh, maybe I could tweak this, this, and that. And I could beat that goal like tomorrow, like next time, like yesterday. Does anybody else do that? It's pretty remarkable. Now, some of that serves you. You know, it keeps us moving forward and it keeps us reaching and stretching, and it can be useful in that way. But oftentimes we miss celebrating the win. I know a lot of us experience that. And this deep down belief that there's inherently something wrong with me. I am a weirdo. I feel like an alien sometimes. I don't know how other people navigate normal day-to-day life. And I'm just weird. There's something wrong with me. So that is some of the shit that I still carry around. And I'll tell you how I work through some of that, and hopefully ways that are helpful for you guys to work through if you experience that or anything similar. Oh yeah, and let's not forget that it's never enough. My potential is never met, and I'm always falling short, no matter how hard I work. That is also a useful belief. But when we deconstruct it, we can take what's useful and leave the rest behind. So I'm going to get into that in a moment. How do I shift some of the shit that I deal with into things that propel me forward, not things that leave me feeling pain and holding me back? The best approach that I have found for me is holistic, graceful, and strategic pressure, which is going to lead me right to this point. Everyone teaches you how to avoid or cope with pressure. This is really normal. The human body seeks to avoid pain, avoid the unknown, and avoid pressure. But I believe that this is a mistake, because the pressure is going to come to you in your business and in your life in one way or another. Much better to have control over it, and as much as you possibly can, decide when you're taking on that pressure, right? So if you procrastinate, which we all do, none of this is said in a judgmental way, I hold you, okay? When we procrastinate and we wait until the last minute, we have created more and more and more and more pressure in a way that doesn't serve us. Now what we had a week to do, we only have a few hours to do. The duration is shrunk and the pressure is on, but we're stressed, we're scrambling, we're going to deliver subpar work, we might be late, right? So that is an example of the pressure coming no matter what, but we have no control and no harnessing of it to our advantage. So instead of this, if we choose to harness and seek pressure in a way that helps us attain more of what we truly desire, we're going to be far better off. And throughout this whole presentation, I'm going to give you strategic ways to do that. And what's so cool is we get to be more of who we truly are at the same time. And being who we are is a process of discovery. I believe that by being who we are, we discover more and more of who we are. We don't need to know who we are in order to be who we are. We've been being who we are this whole time, it turns out. So we just have to keep being more of that. And if you would like some strategies around that, I will also provide them. Keep this in mind for our time that we're spending together today, which thank you so much for doing this with me. You're going to hear a lot of prompts and a lot of questions from me that are designed to help you hone in on what would specifically be best for you to earn a higher level of income with less work. So earning a higher level of income with less work really all begins with this. I promise I am going to give you your desired tactics, strategies, do X, do Y, do Z. I promise. But I would be doing you a disservice if I only gave you that. Because if you have blocks or fear in your mind, heart, body, subconscious, your gut, wherever, whatever organ resonates with you, if you have fear and blocks against success, against the unknown in there, the tactics and strategies I'm going to give you will not work. Do you agree that every skill on the planet, from writing sales copy to doing high ticket sales to building a business to launching a new brand, every tactical part of learning that skill exists and is available to you for free. Of course, you could pay for books, higher level masterminds on this stuff, everything, and that's all well and great too. But if you really wanted to learn every facet of the skill, you could do so for free. So why is it that you are still on this call with me wanting to figure out how to earn a higher level of income with less work? Because I argue that solely focusing on the skills, tactics, and strategies will not get you there, because your deep-rooted beliefs will always win out against them. If somewhere, and it can only be 10% of you, or it could be when you put your head down on the pillow at night, has some sort of tension against success, you will put barriers between you and success. If some deep-rooted part of you is afraid of failure, then you will put barriers between yourself and failure. And guess what? The best way to achieve success is to fail more often. It's easy for us to say that, but if we still have the fear deep down inside, we're not going to do the work that leads us to either failure or success. And I promise you they're both great, and I'll give you examples of that in just a few minutes. Does that make sense? The deep-rooted beliefs will always win, because you will take actions based on those deep-rooted beliefs, not based on the stuff that you say, I want to be successful. It's easy to say that. We all have a sense of, oh, this is what I'm supposed to say. This is what I'm supposed to want. And we'll talk about that. But if deep down you are a little bit afraid, or you want something that's a little bit different, those are the actions that you're going to take. So you will have actions that are opposed to what you claim to believe, but that are in line with what's really going on deep inside. And don't worry, I'm here to work us through that and to deconstruct those beliefs so that we take the parts that serve us and leave behind the parts that don't. So as I said, if you have tension with success, you'll put barriers in front of it. If you believe it is supposed to be hard, you will make it hard. This is a huge thing I see in my coaching. I'm going to give you lots of frameworks to stop making it harder than it needs to be. If you have fear of the unknown, you'll avoid it. And so I want to get everybody's buy-in to this, okay? Do you believe the world needs more people who are living a happy, fulfilled life? Do you guys believe that? Joanna says, absolutely. Icy says, yeah. Amy, yes. Melissa, yes. Steve, yes. Yes, absolutely. The world needs more people who are living a happy, fulfilled life. That includes you. That includes that you are one of those people, and especially because you have the desire to do it by being on this call today because you want something, give yourself permission to be one of those people who is living a fulfilled, happy life. So when you're living in the fear, and when you're living in procrastination, and when you're living in dread, and when you're living in overwhelm or shiny object syndrome or imposter syndrome, you are putting a barrier between yourself and living your fulfilled and happy life. Since you have now told me that we are aligned, you and I now, on our visions and values. We believe the world needs more people to live a fulfilled and happy life. So why not you? So you deserve to take the time to deconstruct that which has been holding you back. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. And of course, we can all imagine the benefits of a world where more people are living a fulfilled and happy life. Things that will build happier families with less pain, less lack, less scarcity. Your children's brains will literally be wired differently when you are living a fulfilled and happy life. You'll be able to better impact your communities, be that your family, your local community, your industry, the organizations that you care about. The more happy and fulfilled you are, the better you're able to impact them. It's even as simple as when I walk across somebody and they smile at me, it sends happy chemicals into my brain. We are hardwired this way because we're hardwired to be in community. So the happier you are, the happier you can make other people too. And of course, you'll be more able to help, more able to uplift because you'll have greater means, authority, clarity, and everything that it takes for you to be a leader in your community, in your industry, in whatever capacity you choose to be. Versus when you're running around confused and scared, it's much harder to help other people when you're in that state. And so, given that, when you consider it this way, holding yourself back is actually a selfish act. That's the harsh truth. And I hope nobody gets mad at me for saying that. It is not my intention to call you a selfish person, but when you're bogged down by the shit in your brain and your heart, by definition, it's selfish because you're only focusing on what's all going on in here, but not in a way that serves you or propels you forward. So again, we're going to deconstruct some of that stuff and break it down. I'm going to give you 3 examples. I'm going to tell you 3 stories that are going to help us deconstruct these beliefs. And I promise you, within the stories and within what's going to follow the stories, you will get your tactical strategies on how to earn a higher level of income with less work. So first, we're going to talk about Alice, okay? Alice's family tells her, and they've told her whole life, that rich people are selfish. Maybe you have heard or felt exactly this in your life. Maybe the nouns and the adjectives are a little different. The specifics of the phrase are irrelevant. It's the sentiment that's the most important thing. Maybe it's not your family. Maybe it's your ex-boyfriend, your ex-husband who used to have this framework of thinking. Maybe it's not rich people. Maybe it's successful people. Maybe it's business people. Maybe it's not selfish. Maybe it's greedy, or they hurt the earth, whatever it may be. But if there's any sort of this looming sentiment in your nervous system, it's going to impact your actions. So here's how we start to deconstruct this so that we take some of the things that serve you and leave the rest behind, and you have action steps for how to deal with this situation. First of all, we have to consider how this belief, again, even if you only feel it 10%, even if it creeps in when you put your head on the pillow, how does this belief serve you? I am not asking that in an ironic or sarcastic way. I'm not saying this so you can say the thing you might feel like you're supposed to say. Oh, Laura, it doesn't serve me. I know it's terrible. It doesn't serve me at all. No, quite literally, how does it protect you? And what does it give to you? This belief can protect you because it keeps you in the familiar. It keeps you doing the things you're familiar with doing. That is a way that we protect ourselves from taking risk and from the unknown. Okay, I could thank you. Thank you, belief, for protecting me in this way. It leaves you less able to ask for more from your business, from your family, from the world around you. And when you don't have to ask for more, you don't have to risk being told no, or you don't have to risk being in the echo chamber of, well, it's selfish for you to ask for more. So that's a form of protection. Okay, thank you, belief, for giving me that too. It keeps you fighting the good fight. I have to work really, really, really hard, because what's even more selfish than being rich, getting rich easily? Oh my God, that's got to be the most selfish thing in the world. And it's admirable to work really, really hard. And so it keeps you doing that. Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate it. So these are all ways that we deconstruct the belief with compassion, with empathy for ourselves, and even for those who have downloaded this belief onto us, because they're holding on to that belief for the same reasons. So we deconstruct all that into how it serves us. Now, of course, we must also consider what it costs us, because it costs us a lot, right? It costs us time. If we believe rich people are selfish, then we're going to spend a lot of time working, but not hitting the level of success that we truly want to have. We're not going to be as efficient. We're not going to have as much ingenuity, because we're going to stay in that repeatable, familiar frame. It could very well cost you relationships. If you believe rich people are selfish, well, you probably won't act in a way that's going to build you a good relationship with a rich person. You might not follow up. You might flake on a call, or you just might have a guard up when you meet somebody who you perceive is at this higher level because of their income, right? And one of my mom's favorite downloads was, nobody can make you feel less than. That's what she would say. Don't worry, Laura. Nobody can make you feel less than. Okay, maybe that was her experience. And as I said, part of my personal work is learning to have more empathy for my mom. Maybe she has struggled with people making her feel less than, but it's really never been part of my experience. But if I'm operating out of this fear that somebody's going to make me feel less than, of course, I'm not going to form a very deep connection with them. Of course, I'm not going to launch into any sort of business with them, right? So that is something that could cost you a higher level of income with less work. Because of course, those with whom you have a relationship with, it's very often who, not how, right? The right people can propel you to the next level in no time. But if you've put that barrier up between you and them, you're never going to get there. So those are some of the things that this belief might be costing you. And again, it might be different for everyone. So now you have the tools to go ahead and analyze. And of course, not just for this belief, any belief you might have, or if it's imposter syndrome, if it's shiny object syndrome. Okay, what does this give me genuinely with empathy? And what does it cost me? I do this for my actions as well. Skipping the gym. What does that give me? What does it cost me? Drinking alcohol. What does it give me? What does it cost me? So you could run a lot of things through this framework, and it's an incredible journey of self-exploration. To handle the wrestling with rich people or success people being selfish, here's what you ask yourself. What do you want a higher level of income for? Everybody's come to join me today because they want a higher level of income with less work. Okay, for what? And I like to break this up into two categories: community-based reasons and solo reasons. Notice I don't call them like selfish and not selfish. Normally, our reasons for wanting a higher level of income will have to do, in fact, can everybody give me some reasons in the chat? I would love to see whatever pops up to mind. What do you want a higher level of income for? Keeping in mind, There's no selfish reason. There's no right or wrong answer. Mary says, get my husband off the ground, to start a family, personal projects, to have a dog, to help more people, to support my family, help my fam, more me time. There you go, Joanna. So my husband can retire early, kids higher education. These are the least selfish answers that one could possibly give, and to support myself, absolutely. So we see, thank you, Tony, buy a plane. That's wonderful. We'll call that a solo reason, but really your family would enjoy the plane a ton too. So the lines are always, Crystal said, to give my dog bionic legs. So when we really analyze what we want this income for, it becomes easier to quiet the voices of our programming that says having a lot of money is selfish, because you write down the what and you're like, oh, that's not really selfish at all. And so again, you can segment these into community-based reasons for your family, for the community around you, to help others, and the solo ones. Why is the plane, and why is, for me, I like handbags, right? Handbags and cars. Why are those things also important? Because one, they fill my cup. One of my favorite quotes is, serve from your saucer, okay? The cup has to be full. You cannot pour from an empty cup. And so if the handbag and the plane fills up your cup so that you're able to turn around and serve others from your saucer, we're doing great. Okay, we're fantastic. And consider this too. It's so often when I wear one of my nicer handbags, another woman comes up to me and says, oh my God, I love your handbag. So it actually brought them a little bit of joy to look at it. And I formed a connection. And I feel joy from the compliment, of course, right? There's one other important part of this question. I asked, very, very specifically asked, what do you want a higher level of income for? Not why. In our industries, personal development, entrepreneurialism, start with why, right? This has been pushed on us for a long time. I believe it could be useful. This is not dichotomous, okay? It's not one or the other, but it may be useful for us to go back to the what. The what is the why, okay? Because why is abstract. It's conceptual, right? What is tangible, and it makes the question much easier to answer. One of my big community reasons for wanting a high level of income is I would love to build a dog shelter in New York City specifically for big dogs. Because in New York City, small dogs, you know, apartments are smaller, housing is smaller, smaller dogs get adopted out of shelters much more easily. And it's a harder time for big dogs. Unfortunately, they're put down or suffer like euthanasia much more often. That's a what, okay? It's very easy for me to say that what. Now I can go from the what to the why to say, well, I want to help dogs. But if I started with helping dogs, it's a whole lot more nebulous. There are a ton of different paths and options for doing that. It could be very helpful if you're a little bit lost. Everyone's like, tell me your why, start with your why. It's okay. The what can be the why. We can go from what to why. And again, it's whatever you're feeling called to do in the moment. It's not a one or the other. And here's one quick thought on the family members who might say that, you know, being successful, earning a high level of income is selfish. Do they ever buy a lotto ticket? Do they ever buy a lotto ticket? So you see, there's a little bit of hypocrisy there. I heard that question from Carlos Reyes at an Arizona entrepreneurs event. And I thought it was so great because it immediately shines the light on a little bit of the hypocrisy of the situation. And that's okay. We could say that without judgment. You know, it's not that they hate money. They just haven't deconstructed the belief. Okay. And they're only focusing on ways that that belief serves them, protects them, keeps them in the familiar, and all of the things we talked about at the beginning of this slide. Another concept that will be helpful for you if you have these relationships, and of course you want to keep these people in your life, is the concept of align versus agree, which I learned from Dan Nicholson. This is so great. You could quite literally ask someone, hey, I don't need you to agree with me, but can we get in a little bit more alignment here? That tied in with understanding what you want a higher level of income for, it would be very difficult. And a lot of us are marketers and experts on persuasion. So you can probably imagine it would be very difficult for somebody not to get in alignment with you when you say, I'm going to work a little bit extra, or I'm going to try out this new thing because I want a higher level of income for this reason. Can you and I get into a little bit of alignment about this? Because asking for agreement, of course, just invite somebody to poke holes. Well, you could do it this other way. I don't know if that's the best way, all of this and that. But if they can just get into alignment with you, you're going to feel so much more supported. And our support systems are a really important factor in our success. So keep that in mind. And you could use align versus agree on your team, your clients, your family, your kids, anyone, everyone. Align versus agree. And I'm sure a lot of you have thought about this before, but it's always a good reminder. most of the time we're speaking to mirrors and not through a window actually about the other person. So when somebody says to you, oh, pursuing a higher level of income is selfish, they're projecting onto you their own beliefs and their own limitations. And because it's a mirror, it can bounce back and you don't have to take it personally and you don't have to amend your actions based on what they're saying to you. And lastly, once this belief is deconstructed, you're more able to make choices as your business and not as you, because now it removes some of the personalization of it. If you're no longer afraid or conflicted on this notion of success and earning a higher level of income, now you can make decisions that are in alignment and in the best interest of the business. So if you fancy yourself a people pleaser and you say yes to people because you want them to like you, we can now reframe that to you are here to please the boss of the business, and that happens to be you, right? In most cases, at any job we work, we want our bosses to like us, right? And so you have to get the boss to like you, and the boss is you. It is not the other person who's asking you for something with which you don't align. Whew, there's a lot just in one slide. I told you we're doing a lot. We're doing 3 of these. Was this first one helpful? Let me know. So everybody have a little bit of deconstruction around wanting a lot of money being a selfish thing when you have all proven that it is not. And we have all also agreed that the world needs more people who are living a happy and fulfilled life. So when we are in tension with the notion of success, we are not living our most happiest and fulfilled life. Therefore, we owe it to ourselves to deconstruct this belief. That's not to say that it's going to go away forever overnight or anything like that. But now that we're more of a master of it, we can take more appropriate actions. Okay, wonderful. And you will get, again, tactical questions, fill in the blank stuff that's going to help you pull more of this out of you, especially with the parts that are very specific and unique to you. All right, so we will move on to my next friend. My next friend is Brad. And Brad believes that it takes hard work to earn a high level of income. So quite similarly, how does this belief help Brad? How does this belief serve us? Well, again, it keeps us working hard, and working hard is really admirable, right? It also gives us a nice feedback loop, a nice reason for if we fail or if we mess up and if something goes wrong, well, I didn't work hard enough. That might be an easier reason to swallow than I didn't research properly. I didn't plan properly. I didn't reach out to the right people because I was scared or shy. All of those, or, my mindset was messed up in one way or another. I sabotaged it. It's probably easier to say I didn't work hard enough than it is to say any of those other more likely reasons for screwing something up. And it's just been ingrained in us, many of us, for a long time. You have to work very, very hard to be successful. And sometimes, of course, that is true. But what we miss out on are all of the opportunities where the opposite is just as true. It could be just as easy to earn a high level of income, but you have to believe it or else it's never going to happen. And so those are some of the things that this belief costs us. We literally make things harder than we have to be, than they have to be. We make things harder all of the time. So again, this belief is going to cost us time because we must work 10 times harder. It's going to cost us efficiency and ingenuity. We would rather click buttons and make the work really hard than sit back, use our brain power, because our brain is a huge muscle of leverage to devise a simpler solution. You won't be able to delegate and lead as effectively because if everything is supposed to be hard, you're going to take on the majority of the work to make sure you're working really hard rather than hiring that new team member, hiring an assistant, doing the brain work of figuring out how to train and work with them. You'll just continue to click all the buttons yourself. So you won't be able to really grow or scale. And this is a big precursor to shiny object syndrome as well, because since it should be hard, let me do 10,000 things at once to make sure that it's nice and hard, like I think it's supposed to be, versus just doing a few of the things that I'm most passionate about. And here's one other big thing that this costs you: confidence. This ingrained belief will fuck up your confidence. You know why? Because, and so few people understand what confidence really means. Confidence often gets inflated with self-esteem. They are two different things. Confidence, the definition of confidence is your trust in your own ability to complete a task. Okay, that's what confidence is. Self-esteem is how you feel about yourself. Totally different. Confidence is related to completing the task, not just your actual level of ability, but how you feel about your ability to complete the task. Therefore, when you make tasks harder, by definition, you will decrease your confidence in the ability to complete the task. So when people come to me and they ask, Laura, I just need a little bit more confidence. How can I get more confident? Of course, there are dozens of ways, at least. Practice, learning, all of this, of course. But there's also this other component, which is, how do I make the task easier? Because by definition, if the task is easier, you will feel more confident in your ability to complete it. Okay, very confident that I could stand up and open the door right now, right? That's easy. I can do that. But if I decided to make the door weigh 20,000 pounds, now I'm not so confident that I could get up and open the door. And I know that this will break down into a lot of different ways for all of the different people on this call. But I'm going to give you the frameworks to realize where you've been making things harder and how you can make them easier. And then your confidence will go up as a result of that. And that's going to make you a higher level of income with less work in a bunch of different ways. You'll feel more confident. The task will be easier. It'll take you less time. And you'll be able to ask for a higher level of income because of your newfound confidence in how you're going to complete it. And keep this in mind. If you want to earn a higher level of income with less work, you must work less. You have to make the decision to work less. I can't give you every single tool, tip, and strategy and mind frame shift in the world for you to continue working the same amount of time. So you've got to put the moats in place that require you to work less. Okay. So as I already said, some of the things to do this: one, how can you make your tasks easier? And you'll get more prompting generative questions that are going to pull specifics out of you. One way to do that is by following directions versus making up your own. Similarly to skills, directions for completing and pretty much any task in the world already exists, and they're online and they're free. If I want to learn how to do a handstand, I could go read the instructions on how to do a handstand. If I want to learn how to write a sales letter, tons of instructions on how to write a sales letter. But what most of us prefer to do is to make up our own directions and kind of follow them and stay really busy, and something catches on fire because we didn't follow the directions. Now we got to go put out the fire and we got to start again. And we feel like shit because we fucked up, and it reinforces our beliefs of, oh yeah, maybe this wasn't meant for me, or I'm not meant to be successful. Successful people are selfish anyway. So all of this feeds one into the other. I post a lot of jobs, and of course, being part of the Copy Accelerator family, I see a lot of job gigs get posted. I see many, many applicants who do not follow the directions on the post. You are making things harder. I have seen coaches give outlines, brilliant outlines. Oh yeah, the sales letter could start with this, could go with this, could finish with this and close with this. And then I see the writing that gets turned in, and it's completely different from the directions that you were given. That could likely come from this very ingrained, it could be incredibly subconscious, a belief that it's supposed to be harder, so I'm going to make it hard. Here's one more example that I see all of the time. Contractors that I hire will be late. They're going to tell me, ooh, Laura, I'm going to be a few days late for this email series that you hired me for. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to write double the emails. Anybody do this? Has anybody done that before? This is the symptom of believing that it has to be hard, and therefore you make it hard. Okay. I didn't want double the emails. I just wanted the number of emails that I asked for in the time frame that I asked for them. You have made it harder on yourself, and it's going to cost you a ding to your confidence, right? Because you've made it harder. So please just follow the directions. Okay. It's going to make your life so much easier. Similarly, as I said, if you want to earn a higher level of income with less work, you must work less. It's part of the equation, right? So one of the best ways to work less, and this is from Craig Ballantyne and others, I'm sure, is to schedule your fun first. Schedule begets schedule. So if you schedule 10 hours of fun per week or more, 20 hours of fun per week, yoga, family time, long walks, partying with your friends, whatever it may be, pedicures, manicures, self-care, massages, all of it. Put that on your schedule first, and that's going to limit the amount of time you have to make everything more complicated. It's going to limit the amount of time you have to find problems that you get to solve when they really didn't need to be solved in the first place. We love solving problems as entrepreneurs. That's what we do. If you want to have a higher level of income with less work, we need to decrease the number of problems that we look to solve. That also protects our energy, which is really important. And then the fun comes into your life. It comes back into your life because you've made the hard time for it. Joanna said, you had me do this a few weeks ago and it's amazing. I'm so glad. Like, this could literally change your life. You put 10 hours of fun on your calendar and follow directions, you will earn a higher level of income with less work. This is really simple stuff. I promise you, it's like a shower, okay? It works. You just have to do it consistently, right? So we will schedule our fun first from now on. This is a huge one. I know Rachel says, what is fun? Stop trying to beat your best day every day and see how you can raise the floor. This is Nick Peterson. It's funny when you think about it that we always want to beat our best day or our best month. Oh boy, I've had a $25,000 month. Let's see if I can make 50K next month. By definition, best is a superlative term. That means it should be hard to beat, right? So instead of, it's also how we take too many risks and end up blowing things up, right? Oh man, just did 25K. Now I've got to do 50K. You're scrambling. That's a scrambling energy. What could I possibly do? Versus if you just don't blow things up, you're going to be way ahead. What's an example of blowing things up? Oh, I very quickly made this $5,000 investment in this thing because I thought it would get me to like 50K. And now I don't really know what it is. And I'm scattered and I don't know what the heck I'm doing. That is an example of blowing things up. So if you just don't blow things up in that way, or if you take on 3 more projects and now you're scrambling and I'm afraid and I've made it much harder, that's another form of blowing things up. So if you just don't blow things up, if you take a step back and a breath and appreciate the value of not blowing things up, you are going to be way further ahead. Stop blowing things up. Instead of blowing things up, how do you raise the floor? And I have a bunch of notes on this. And again, you'll see them in your fill in the blanks template at the end of the call. So what are some ways that you raise the floor, that you make your average a little bit higher and you don't have the dips? Instead of these dips, we keep everything here. And then our best months, that's all upside, right? Inbound pipes. Okay, what is currently working from you? Take a sincere, brain-led, use this guy, inventory of what's been working for you. Oh, I notice that whenever somebody DMs me, we end up doing some work together and I get a deal. Okay, how do we get more people to DM you? That's a form of raising the floor, expanding the pipe. Water is very adaptable, right? It can go through a teeny tiny pipe. So if we want more water, all we got to do is, this looks a little, don't screenshot that. Don't screenshot that. All we've got to do is expand the pipe versus, ooh, somebody ironically on a Facebook ad told me I should go start a TikTok account. I'm going to go over there and start a TikTok account, or else I'm going to miss out on all of the new traffic from TikTok. This is how you blow yourself up because you're missing the pipe that's working and you're jumping on something brand new because you believe it's supposed to be hard. You're supposed to be incredibly diversified. And then you go and you make 3 or 4 TikTok videos and then you abandon it and you don't do it again. The time may come where it makes the most sense for you to explore TikTok or whatever new channel. But if you're jumping on it out of this, ooh, maybe that's what's going to get me from 25 to 50, it most likely won't. Because if that pattern worked, then it would have worked for you already. That is not an example of how to raise your floor. Taking what already works and expanding on it is how you raise your floor, along with not blowing things up. Another example, rate sheets. I've got a lot of service providers on the call. How many of you have your rate sheet set up and ready to go? That would be a really nice example of raising your floor so that anytime somebody comes through your inbound pipe, you don't have to go through the rigmarole and the mental anguish of what do I charge? It's there on the rate sheet. And of course, your rate sheet can change over time. It's not set in stone. Or if you get a certain lead who needs something tailored, or you could charge them way more because they're balling out of control, that's all fine. That's all well and good. But now you've got a baseline, you've got a standard, you've got a reference point. So you're raising the floor. And there are a lot of, again, you will explore more and more ways of how to raise the floor versus being reactive and blowing yourself up. And when you raise the floor, of course, you'll earn a higher level of income with less work. Is this all? I'm going to check at the end of every person. Is this still good? And now we will come to Denise. I don't know what's going to happen. I might fail. This is like two beliefs in one, fear of failure and fear of the unknown. But for the interest of time, I have put them together. So you'll see there are a lot of commonalities. How does this belief serve you? Protects you. If you're afraid of the unknown, you won't venture into it. Unknown in our brain is wired as dangerous. We like the familiar. So it protects us in that way. It keeps us playing in the familiar. Put my notes on the side here. And it gives you an out to quit. You realize that? Because I'm afraid of failure. Oh God, I failed. I quit. For anybody who, and you see this repetition from all of these hugely successful people, look up any of their stories or their podcasts or whatever it may be about failure. They're like, failure is just part of the process. They don't really acknowledge failure as this hugely damaging thing, even when it's been incredibly painful, right? That's because they have no intention of quitting. It's part of the process because they don't intend to quit. But if somewhere deep down you intend to quit, you might use failure as the vehicle that gives you the excuse that enables you to quit. If you want to quit, quit. Quit from a position of power where you decide to quit. You decide you're more interested in doing something else. Okay, I'm going to do this other thing now. Not waiting around for failure so that you're able to quit. Of course, what does this cost you? Innovation, risk-taking, launching something new, asking for more, stretching yourself further. It costs you all of that, right? And it is definitely another precursor to shiny object syndrome because you're like, well, I'm afraid to go all in. I'm afraid to fail. So I'm going to dip my toe in 10,000 pools because I'm afraid to get cold if I jump all the way into one pool. So if you see that you have the symptom of shiny object syndrome, you can retrofit, look backwards and be like, which of these beliefs are causing me to be this way? And how can I deconstruct them? And how do I give myself action steps to move forward beyond it? Which I'm going to give you a lot of prompts for in just a moment. Of course, it's going to make hearing the word no, from a prospect, from a potential partner, really scary, right? Versus reframe. And so you don't ask for things that you might hear no to. You try to make every pitch, every proposal an easy yes. But that costs you earning a higher level of income in less time because you're not asking for enough. So if we reframe looking to hear yes to looking to hear no, by definition, you will be asking for higher and higher levels of money. And therefore, this is one of the ways to earn a higher level of income with less time. If we hear no, that's a wonderful thing because now we're quoting nice high amounts of money. And bear in mind, getting no is not final. It's never a final thing. Usually when somebody says no, they say, can we do this instead? Or how can we turn this no into a yes? What can we do? There's nearly always still potential after hearing a no to get a deal. Additionally, you can solicit no in a very creative way to move a deal forward, or at least get a lot of clarity on it, which this is from Chris Voss and Never Split the Difference. Say you're back and forth, right? And a negotiation is not really moving along. You start to look for no. And one way you could do that is by saying, am I safe and right? Am I right in assuming that this deal is really not going to move forward? A lot of us, again, we work in persuasion, right? So we know how the other party is likely going to react to that question. Oh, no. We want the deal to move forward. And then the gas is applied or moving forward again. So that's another good way to go after hearing no. So Thea says, interesting. I hear don't negotiate your rates from people I respect. That said, I just quoted super high to open a dialogue the other day. Yeah, so it might not be negotiating your rates. It might be negotiating the package or the timeline. The price could stay the same, but maybe you offer them one other little piece, or you give them a bit more clarity in the work involved on your end, or the value that they're going to get at the end. But yeah, I would not often seek to lower the number. And if at the end of the day, things are not a fit, watch, I'm going to move into that. That's my next bullet point, I think, right here. Yes. If at the end of the day, things are not a fit, if at the end of the day you fail somehow and in some way, you are an unrepeatable miracle no matter what. This is about as woo-woo as I get, but it's actually really scientific and factual. You've all been alive for some time now. Have you found another you? No. So your worth is not tied in to the failure, to the no, to the success. You are the unrepeatable miracle of you, no matter what. And your prospect or your customer, whoever it may be, your family, they're your comrades no matter what. They are your comrades in humanity no matter what. That frees me from tying my worth to whether or not a prospect says yes or no. They're my comrade no matter what. I'm the irrepeatable me no matter what. It also allows me to move into diagnosing versus prescribing. Okay. And when you do this, you will earn a higher level of income with less work. What do I mean by diagnose versus prescribing? And I got a lot of this from Kevin Nations. I really try to give credit to as many people and all their incredible influences on me as I can. When you're diagnosing somebody, you're figuring out where they're at, what they want, and what they need to get there. You're not selling your thing. It's not about you. You're not prescribing. So there are a bunch of incredible diagnostic questions you can ask. What is the challenge right now? What is so challenging that you're reaching out to me right now? Have you tried to solve this problem before? Why don't you just solve this problem yourself? That's golden for a sales call. You start asking that in your solicitations with leads. Why haven't you done it yourself? Do you want me to be the one to solve this for you? Okay, so we're all in the diagnosing mode. It's just like going to a doctor. You go to a doctor, they ask you like 25,000 questions and they spend 1 second literally writing the prescription. So there's so much work to do in the diagnosis. And when you see everyone around you that you interact with as your comrade, you can diagnose from a place of genuine care. And that gets felt in the interaction. That's felt energy. And of course, you are treated more like a doctor. You're like, man, Laura really understands what the heck I'm going through. I want to work with her. Another way to say that is stop selling what you're selling, start selling what they're buying. That's directly from Kevin. You see how good that is? When you stop selling the thing, oh, let me tell you about all my Diamond Day speakers. Let me tell you all of the training and tools we're going to do. That's about me. But if I'm like, hey, what is your challenge? Okay, do you want my help with that challenge? Now I'm selling what they're buying and what they really want and need. Okay. And all of that stuff, the presentations, the tools, that's the how. All right. So hopefully that's helpful. Now, if you're afraid of the unknown, decrease the unknown. Much like decreasing the complexity of a task to boost your confidence, we can decrease fear of the unknown by quite literally decreasing the unknown. How do we do that? Learning is a hugely useful way to do that. I am making the shift in my business and life to where I'm spending 60% of my time, and I want this to get up to 80% eventually, learning, okay? Reading books, having conversations with people who teach me stuff, podcasts, courses, whatever it may be. 60 to 80% of my time learning. Why? Because now I get more leverage out of the brain muscle, okay? And I'm not clicking buttons, setting fires for myself to put out, jumping into too many things, right? I'm putting a barrier between myself and all of that. And I'm getting tremendous upside by learning a bunch of stuff. So you shift into spending 60% of your time learning, diagnosing instead of prescribing, and scheduling your 10 hours of fun before anything else. You will earn a higher level of income with less work. Okay. And you can write me a testimonial. And it is not through developing some secret skill, right? It's not through making things incredibly hard. It's in fact by doing the opposite. So we decrease the unknown by learning and by experience as well. Okay, I've done some learning about negotiations and sales. It's time for me to step in and try it out, right? I'm afraid to get into this negotiation because I never have before. Okay, so let's make it that you have. Let's make it so that it's not that you've never done it before, right? And if you're the irrepeatable you no matter what, and the other person is your comrade no matter what, then it's totally okay what the outcome is. Because the outcome is still part of your 60% learning bracket. You're just learning through experience. We are high intention, high integrity, low concern with the actual outcome in a situation like this. Does that make sense? Here's my last point for now about how to help with this concern of, I don't know what's going to happen, I might fail. We're going to plan, okay, from the top down. I'm going to pause for a moment because I don't see the chat. So how do we break down and take action in the face of, I don't know what's going to happen, I might fail? We're going to plan from the top down, and we're going to do planning regularly. Man, I used to be such such a crappy planner. I used to say, I don't have the executive function for it. I would much rather just take action, click buttons, jump around, do something new, and then react to all of the fires that have come with that. Now I prefer to plan. And by planning from the top down, I simply mean what is like the biggest, juiciest, dreamiest outcome for me. This could tie in to the what's that we talked about earlier. So if the what is retire my husband, then this is what I would do. I like unlined paper. Some of you guys know this. This is my favorite way to plan. Can't be in the lines. I like to write sideways and circle shit and draw little pictures. So I really like unlined paper. And I would put at the top, retire my husband, or I would put NYC dog shelter. Okay, and I just start brainstorming. And a big part of this is the who. Let's remember who, not how. Who could I potentially seek help from or collaborate with on the big dog shelter? How do I form a relationship with them? Do I get into their DMs? It's really effective for me. You know, when I DM somebody, I tend to end up forming a relationship with them. So now I'm paying attention to the things that work for me and the pipes that work for me and using that to serve my big goal. Okay, what would funding for the shelter look like? Here are 3 or 4 ideas for that. So we're getting this nice little grid of stuff, and the action steps will come from there. Now, of course, the plan is going to change. As new information comes in, the plan will get adapted. But now I have a lay of the land. I have a map. I have a rough sense of what the terrain is going to look like because I have a map. And I believe it was Eisenhower, I think, really great quote. The plan is nothing. Planning is everything. So even understanding that the plan will change a lot, you have that lay of the land now, and you know what variables are changing and how those changes might impact others. So if you set up a plan for your new offering to the market, it's going to be this. I'm going to position it in this way. I'm going to reach out to so-and-so, see if they could collaborate with me on it, see if they could promote it, versus let me like throw this thing out there and see what happens. You know, you might get some results from that, but it's not going to be as powerful as using the big muscle to get a lay of the land beforehand. Okay. And planning, of course, decreases the unknown because you're getting that lay of the land. And I wanted to say one more thing about being afraid of failure. I touched on how you hear the successful people all the time talk about their failures and how they only got propelled forward because they didn't quit. And one of my favorite examples of this was when Stefan, my husband, who some of you might know, spoke at Diamond Day 1, and he made a list of all of his failures, some to the tune of millions of dollars. I can verify. I lived through that with him. It was painful. And he's recounting failure after failure after failure. And then he says, here is the remarkable thing. I just kept making more and more and more money. Of course, I don't have $1 billion yet. I have not failed enough to have $1 billion. Wasn't that so great? That I was like, that was so good. So we could seek the failure. We could seek the failure. The more failure we seek, the more successful we will become. Hamza says, seeking failure or enduring it when it happens. Both. Here's a wonderful framing technique that Jason Fladlin, who I'm going to talk about in a little bit, does. You know, everybody says to him, I got to be successful to make $10,000 a month. I got to be successful to make $10,000 a month. That's the perception. And then all of our shit baggage with success comes into play, and success feels very hard. So literally all of these things interconnect. But Jason simply says, can you fail your way to $10,000 a month? Because I see people do that all the time. So it's really about shifting your perception of success and of failure into whatever serves you. And that might be slightly different for everybody. But a lot of this is more art than physics, right? So if the concept of seeking failure is motivating to you, then do that. And if you're in the midst of what feels like a failure and telling yourself, okay, I've got to endure this, I've got to overcome it, I've got to learn from it, I've got to change the plan, is helpful to you, then do that. It's certainly not a one or the other situation. My coaching clients know this, okay? If you're going to ask me something one or the other, you're not going to get the answer that you're in the moment looking for, okay? Because it is very rarely one or the other. It is both and when. Hamza says, if my failure involves growth of any kind, it's usually a net positive. Failing but stagnating is when it hurts. Yeah, I love that. Whitney says, I love reframing failure for the lessons you gain from it. I tell people who ask me for advice that you grow more from failure than success. Absolutely. And The brain is neurologically hardwired to, it hurts more. Failure hurts more than success feels good for most people neurologically. Like more of the pain, hormones, and all of that gets secreted by the brain when we fail at something. So if we can take that to, okay, I'm going to really feel my pain from this, right? In addition to the tactical things that have gone wrong, I'm going to analyze like why this hurts me so much in here. Is it because it verifies that, you know, my mom was right and like I can't do anything, you know, or is it because I'm embarrassed in front of my peers who I admire a lot? Is it both? Likely yes. You know, what are all the things? And okay, how does this pain serve me? What does it cost me? How do I deconstruct it? So looking at failure is very useful in that way. And of course, you get a ton of tactical lessons. Okay, so I'm going to quickly recap some of the takeaways from this exercise that we've done, and then we will get into our beloved do this, do that tactics and strategies. But first, can I just get you guys to agree that you got to do this shit first? You have to do this shit first, because if I could give you a sales script, I could give you a template, I could give you do X, Y, and Z, but if you still have the tension against success, the template's not going to work for you. You likely already have the templates. You've probably already purchased them. I'm not saying that they're not great, but you're on this call today because you want something different. You want something more. This is the something more that makes every template, every little script, every strategy so much more powerful, because you have a greater sense of buy-in. You have a greater sense of self-belief when you work on this stuff. And that is why, even though they tell me, they tell me it is not sexy, I fucking do it anyway, okay? Because it is sexy. The outcomes are quite sexy, right? And you like yourself and you like your work so much more because you have that clarity. So some of the recaps from here, you can follow the what does it do for me, what does it cost for me exercise on all of your actions and beliefs. I've found incredibly insightful in my own life. Even, you know, why don't I ever pick up the phone when my family calls? What does it serve me? What does it cost me? A lot of juice right there. Remember, we filter all of this stuff through removing right and wrong. You know, right and wrong were useful concepts probably back in the day, but I don't think they're so useful for humanity anymore. And instead ask us, does this serve me? Which parts of this serve me? How could I double down on the things that serve me and lovingly put to the side the things that do not serve me? When I interact with others, am I listening with a desire to learn? Or am I eager to say my piece? Okay, that leans back into the diagnosing versus prescribing. Am I actively listening with a desire to learn? Do I set clear boundaries and communicate them? Remember, saying no is saying yes to the right thing. Okay, I want everybody to remember that, especially my people pleasers in the crowd who say yes to too many things. When you say yes to too many things, you don't get your 10 hours of fun on the calendar. You don't get your 60% learning on the calendar. You're spread, you got your toe in the pool instead of your whole body. It messes a lot of stuff up when you say yes all of the time. When you say more often, when you say no more often, you earn that higher level of income with less work. And it boosts your confidence as well. Yeah, Mary, I do like 10 hours a week fun. Sorry guys, I dropped my mic. 10 hours a week fun time as a starting off point. It could certainly be more. If you feel ready to dive into more, then by all means, do more. It's going to improve your confidence too, because you're only going to say yes to those tasks that you are certain you can complete. If somebody was crazy enough to ask me to do their taxes, I would be so confident in saying, hell no, I cannot do your taxes. You know, saying no does not reveal that you lack the skill. In fact, it reinforces your skills. So setting those boundaries and communicating them is wonderful. Joanna, if you got 5 hours a week for now, that's a good start. It'll increase. And we could set a goal to increase that too. Was I my authentic self in any situation? Fake it until you make it is the stupidest fucking line I've ever heard. If we're relating it to confidence, if we're relating it to self-esteem, if confidence is your trust in the ability to complete a task, and you're faking it until you make it, how do you have sincere trust in your ability to complete the task? And the self-esteem piece too. How could you possibly like yourself if you're hiding some of yourself or all of yourself from those around you? Nobody wants to meet a fake person. So I'm taking the stupid ass phrase, fake it until you make it, and I'm throwing it into the trash. Okay, so that we can operate as our authentic, quirky, weird selves, definitely. I'm going to do a whole separate talk on the confidence piece and killing the line, fake it until you make it. So now we're going to move into, and we're going to do this part rather quick, but I'm going to run into what the questions are for this. So they're going to be, what is one pattern of thinking that you commonly have that you could commit to analyzing and then releasing? So by analyzing, I mean deconstructing in the way that we did those three for our three avatars earlier in the call. You'll then write down the total opposite thought pattern. So rich people are selfish. I could write rich people are selfless. And then I'd write down one time where I experienced that to be true. So now I realize, oh, number one is just a story that I've been telling in my head. It's just as likely for number two to be true as number one. I hope that makes sense. And as I said, you'll get the fillable versions of this right at the end so you can spend your time with them. Okay, what is working for you currently? How can you raise the floor? So you get your own generative prompt, sit with it for a while. The answer may not hit you immediately, but when you sit with it, it'll come and the universe will start to confirm it too, not to get too woo-woo. But what can you do to raise that floor? What is not working? How can you eliminate it? Remember, saying no is saying yes to the right. What will you map out within the next 24 hours, shot clock time, and plan it from the top down? Getting the plan, getting the thoughts on paper is a wonderful generative exercise. It lets the world know what you're doing and you're starting to gather all of the information you need. And then when you're sitting, and if you happen to have a little bit of time, you could look to the plan and say, oh, okay, here's the first action I could take towards the plan. And you could do that. So now you're not just flittling around, responding to every Facebook ad, trying to hire 10 agencies like I did with Eden Beauty. Every agency Facebook ad, I was like, oh, okay, that's the one, I got to try that one. Versus sitting and actually planning a solid traffic generation strategy. Wouldn't that have been much more effective? Now that 60% or more of your time will be spent learning, what can you learn that will either raise your floor or help you with the plan? Okay, or both, whatever comes to mind for you. I'm really excited to see your guys' answers to that. And then we come to the packaging your core methodology, which is one of my favorite exercises to do with people. If you were to package the core methodology of what you do in your business or professional career into a 3-step process that accomplishes X, what would that be? What would that process be and what is X? So if you are a rock star copywriter, right? What is your 3-step process for writing copy? This creates the USP for you, the unique brand of you, and of course, X, the outcome, incredible sales copy packages for business owners in the health industry, right? Whatever it may be. Now that you have this framework too, when we think about your inbound pipes, you think, okay, what ties back to this? What ties back to my 3 steps? How can I further deconstruct my 3 steps to create content that teaches people? How can I use that in my own branding online? I'm going to share today part 1 of my 3 steps. That would be a great little piece of content that a lot of people would enjoy, which ties in to question number 9 and getting you guys to commit to teaching somebody else or a group your 3-step process once a quarter. Because when you teach, it's called double loop learning. When you teach, you learn a whole lot more. You get the feedback from the marketplace. It boosts your confidence, right? Because you have proved that you're able to complete this task of teaching and you're seen as more of an authority in your industry. So when you do this, you will earn a higher level of income with less work. And those teachings could exist evergreen somewhere. Evergreen where you don't have to touch them or over promote them or anything like that. And that's another example of raising the floor. Start brainstorming your process. Another nice thing about planning and generation and thinking is it's not set in stone. It's just the beginning. It doesn't mean that has to be exactly how it is forever and ever. There is no right or wrong. So we're just going to get some stuff out of your brain and get it down onto paper so that we have more of the roadmap for when we take actions. Okay, I'm so glad. But first, I would really love to hear from you guys. At this presentation, we have covered reframing pressure. All of this are ways to change your relationship with pressure. I am deconstructing my own thoughts. I am putting loving pressure on them to literally break them apart into the pieces that serve me and the pieces that don't. I am putting pressure on my time. I am not allowing myself to dick around and click buttons and make things more complicated. I am putting moats around the time so that I'm forced to be more efficient and focus on that which truly matters. I am putting pressure on my plans and my dreams by getting them out and putting them on paper and starting to lay out the action steps for them. So all of this is embodied in really loving pressure. We talked about how the deep-rooted beliefs will always win. And that's why we started there. And then we got into a little bit more of the tactical stuff. We talked about Alice, Brad, Denise, and deconstructing their beliefs. We just went through the whole worksheet that, again, you're going to get your hands on. So my survey, my questions for you. Knowing what you now know, are you starting to realize how breaking down your deep beliefs about success, ease, failure, and the unknown. That's hugely important work to truly earning a higher level of income with less work. Do you see that? Carolyn says, without a doubt, yes, yes, yes. Wonderful. Do you feel more motivated to stop limiting beliefs from holding you back and to reach the next level of greatness that I know you are capable of having? Do you feel motivated to do that? Wonderful, wonderful. Do you feel stronger against distractions and more clear on how to raise your floor? And at the least, the importance of raising your floor and simply not blowing things up. Just don't blow things up. Catch yourself. When you're starting to take those steps towards blowing something up, you'll feel it. You will so feel it. You will know. You'll be like, I'm lighting the match here. I'm starting to blow something up. Let me just take a step back. It's better to do nothing. It's better to do absolutely nothing than blow yourself up. So in that situation, nothing is a win. Give yourself a pat on the back. Okay. If anybody plays around with cryptocurrency, right, and you feel rushed and you're trying to get in and you're trying to connect a wallet and you're trying to do all this stuff, you're lighting the match. Okay. You're getting close, just much more. You will earn a higher level of income if you do nothing in that situation. You want to be calm. You want to make a rational decision that follows your plan. Okay. Stop blowing yourself up. Do you have a better understanding of how confidence really works and how to become more confident? Make the task easier. That's a huge lever for confidence. Stop making it so darn hard. It doesn't always have to be hard. Sometimes it does. A lot of the time it doesn't. Use this. What can I do to make the task easier? Are you beginning to realize the advantage you have right now? Because a lot of people do not do this. A lot of people are reactionary and looking for the tactics to solve their problems. They're desperately craving someone to say, just tell me exactly what to do. Tell me exactly what to do. I would be afraid of anybody who jumps right into prescribing, right? Telling you what to do without understanding very much about you at all. Doctor writes me a script off the street. Am I going to go fill it? No. But you have the advantage of starting to unpack who you actually are and then taking action. And when I hang out in rooms of very expensive fucking masterminds, okay, $100,000 masterminds, these are the conversations that are being had. How do I deconstruct the fact that I procrastinate? This was like a 30-minute conversation. How do I show up more authentically and stop people pleasing everybody? This is the conversation. It's not launch this ad campaign, launch that ad campaign. Because if we fix all of this, the ad campaign fixes itself. You'll know which ad campaign to launch. And you won't be sitting there begging everybody to tell you exactly what to do. So that is a huge advantage. And even if you've only used a tiny fraction of what we've covered here today, would you say your time with me, which you've given me a lot, and I am so, so, so grateful, was well spent? And so in other words, you are happy you came to the Higher Income, Less Work Masterclass. I'm so glad. And again, this is my first time doing this. So thank you. Thank you guys for your energy. Thank you for listening. I am glad you've gotten a lot out of it. I do a lot. I could have probably done a whole presentation on any one topic here, but that's just not the fucking way I roll, right? And I teach you guys to be authentic. I trust that the people who get on with my message can handle a lot of thoughts at once and then take the time to unpack them and pick out the ones that best serve them. So let me say some of the things I know about you, okay? Because we did cover a lot. You might feel amplified for a day or two. You might fill out your form. You might not even do that, okay? You might put it to the side, get distracted, and go back to reaction mode. I've done that many, many, many times. So I was faced with two choices, okay? Do I do this presentation and let you go off, right? And hope that you maintain some consistency with this work? Or do I ensure that we're able to continue the work together? And when you see what I have, you'll be really glad that I made the choice that I did, because we talked about making tasks easier, okay? And one of the best ways to make your tasks easier is to spend more time with me and let me continue helping you. I actually have a free tool for you that will help you best determine which action step to take next given your unique situation so that you can get a win for your business in the next 24 hours. And that tool is over at bizwintoday.com. Thank you everybody for your time and attention today. This has been the Higher Income, Less Work Masterclass. I really, 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 really hope that it was helpful to you and that you turn around and begin to earn a higher level of income with less work. I appreciate you guys immensely, and I will talk with you all very soon. Have a great day.